announced a lawsuit to stop California's blatant interference with federal immigration enforcement while also blasting the liberal hotbed of anti-Trump resistance. Now, this comes after the Oakland mayor aided and abetted criminal illegal immigrants, tipping them off about an ICE raid that was coming. Tonight, we go one-on-one, a Hannity shootout with Jorge Ramos over this hot-button issue. And also breaking right now, a stunning new revelation that the FBI lied to the FISA judges in order to get a warrant to spy on Trump campaign associate Carter Page. And according to a new report, former British spy Christopher Steele, he knew that he was being paid by Clinton and by the DNC, but that is not what the FBI's FISA application actually said. And also breaking right now, new information about how the FBI missed a crucial warning and warning signs from Stoneman Douglas shooter Nicholas Cruz. We have that and all that more breaking news in tonight's opening monologue. All right, so tonight the Trump administration draws a line in the sand when it comes to liberal states aiding and abetting criminal illegal immigrants that pose a significant threat to you, the American people. The Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, he used a news conference today to officially announce that the Trump administration is suing California over their sanctuary state policies that shield these illegal immigrants that commit crimes. Sessions did not hold back. Let's take a look.
A refusal to apprehend and deport those, especially the criminal element, effectively rejects all immigration law. It's a rejection of law, and it creates an open borders system. It's the only way it can be described. And open borders is a radical, irrational idea that cannot be accepted, contrary to what you might hear from open borders radicals. We are not asking California, Oakland, or anyone else to actually effectively enforce immigration laws, although we would welcome the positive assistance the majority of jurisdictions in America provide through our federal offices. We would certainly like that. But ICE agents do incredible work every day. They're not backing down. They're not going to be deterred. And we're not going to stop enforcing the law in Alabama or California either.
Now, President Trump, Jeff Sessions, and the federal government, they are simply standing up for the rule of law. Now, the radical left, they're putting criminal, illegal immigrants before the safety of American citizens. Now, all the Trump administration wants to do is enforce federal immigration laws that are already on the books. It's really that simple. We either in this country, we have law and order, or we have chaos. Now, let's say you don't like the laws, then change them. Elect people that will change them. But if you break the laws on the books, you should suffer the consequences. Now, California's officials, well, they don't have to help. They just need to stop interfering. Or in the case of this Oakland mayor aiding and abetting criminal illegal immigrants, well, we'll have more on that disgraceful story and potential crimes of the mayor in just a second. But what's disturbing about all of this is that officials in California, they're now risking your lives because they think protecting criminal illegal immigrants is good politics. They are literally willing to endanger Americans by harboring people that have no reason to be in this country because they think it will win them a couple of extra votes. You have liberal politicians like California Governor Jerry Brown. They don't want to debate the issues because they know the facts and the truth and the rule of law are not on their side. And that's why instead of addressing why his state is shielding criminal illegal immigrants, well, Governor Brown instead, he attacks Fox News. He accuses the federal government of going to war. Really, Jerry? What's this?
This is really unprecedented for the chief law enforcement of the United States to come to California and act more like Fox News than a law enforcement officer. This is a political stunt. It's more like Fox News and what's going on in Washington. And it's not about the truth. It's not about protecting our state. It's about dividing America. This is basically going to war against the state of California, the engine of the American economy. It's not wise, it's not right, and it will not stand.
Okay, it's not right, but we did invite Governor Brown to come on the show tonight, but shockingly, well, he said no. Now, Governor Brown has no facts to back up this argument, so it's no surprise that he's too gutless to come on the program. Now, liberals in California, you need to answer one simple, fundamental question. How does America benefit from criminal, illegal immigrants staying in the country? If you don't see this as a danger that is posed to every American, well, I don't know how I can convince you. What is the upside? What is the reward? Why are you willing to risk and imperil other people's lives? These are criminal aliens. We're not talking about DACA here. Now, people like the mayor of Oakland, Libby Schaaf, they sure seem to think so, and that's why the mayor was tipping off criminal illegal immigrants about the ICE raid late last month. And guess what happened? As a result, well, the acting head of ICE says that about 800 criminal illegal immigrants were able to avoid arrest. Is that what Americans really want elected officials to do, to protect illegal immigrants that are criminals? Now, the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, blasted the Oakland mayor earlier today. Let's take a look.
So here's my message to Mayor Schaaf. How dare you? How dare you needlessly endanger the lives of our law enforcement officers to promote a radical open borders agenda?
What this mayor is doing is disgraceful, but despite the mayor's actions, ICE still was able to detain criminal illegal immigrants. Look at the stats about the Oakland area raid. In spite of the warnings, 232 people arrested for violating federal immigration laws. Now, of that 232 arrested, 180 were either convicted criminals, had been issued the final order of removal and didn't leave, or had been previously deported and then returned again to the U.S. illegally because we have open borders. 115 of the 232 had prior felony convictions for sex abuse, weapons charges, and assault. Now, those are the types of people that this Oakland mayor is protecting. Now, of course, Libby Schaaf is defiant, defending her lawless behavior, but the Department of Justice is now looking into a possible obstruction of justice charge against her for what she did. Now, keep in mind, if California lawmakers, if they want to continue to obstruct federal immigration officials from actually doing their job, then President Trump should follow through on his threat to pull ICE agents from California. You may remember this.
We're getting no help from the state of California. I mean, frankly, if I wanted to pull our people from California, you would have a crime nest like you've never seen in California. All I'd have to do is say, ICE and Border Patrol, let California alone. You'd be inundated. You would see crime like nobody's ever seen crime in this country. And yet we get no help from the state of California.
All right, when it comes to criminal illegal immigrants, the media, the left, liberals, they refuse to look at facts. And because of this, they are complicit in the harm that these people in the future will cause to American citizens. Now, unlike the left and most members of the media, well, we've actually been down to the border over a dozen times. We have watched firsthand what is going on down there. I've been on horseback, all-terrain vehicles, helicopters, boats. I've seen drug warehouses, tunnels. I've seen it all. When President Trump says we need a wall, he's right, and I don't mind a wall with a door either. In 2014, I sat in on a border briefing with then Texas Governor Rick Perry. Listen closely. 642,000 criminal offenses committed by illegal immigrants in the state of Texas alone in only a 7-year period. A serious problem. Watch.
Criminal aliens have been responsible for about 642,000 offenses, criminal offenses. You look up there in the top left, sexual assault. There's close to 8,000 victims.
642,000 crimes
since 2008.
Since 2000. In Texas alone.
Yes, sir. Over 200,000
yes, sir.
individuals. Their criminal history reflects that they were committed over 642,000 crimes.
That's the cost of not securing the border.
642,000 crimes created and impacting the citizens of Texas in a 7-year period. Then there's all the statistics that the liberal mainstream media always conveniently ignore. Truth doesn't seem to matter to them. According to the Migration Policy Institute, about 820,000 of the 11 million illegal immigrants in America are convicted criminals, 820,000. The U.S. Sentencing Commission has found that illegal immigrants account for 13% of all non-immigration related federal sentences for the fiscal year 2016. Now, this despite the fact that these illegal immigrants, they only make up 3.5% of the population. 3.5, 13%, and this is important. That number is only dealing with federal sentences. It's much higher if you factor in convictions by state and local governments. Now, according to the latest report from the Government Accountability Office, get this, an estimated 55,000 criminal illegal aliens were in federal prison in the year 2010. In fiscal year 2017, ICE deported over 226,000 illegal immigrants. And also in 2017, over 127,000 of those deported were previously convicted of a crime. And in 2010, the DOJ found that 57% of immigration offenders charged in U.S. District Court had prior felony convictions. Now, the facts on illegal immigrants are irrefutable, and that's why the left and the media never talk about them. You've never seen this before, I'm guessing. This is about protecting you, the American people. It's that simple. All right, we'll have more on this in a minute. Now, also breaking tonight, we have more evidence, more proof that the FBI lied to that FISA court judge in the original application and 3 subsequent renewal applications to get a warrant to spy on a member of the Trump campaign, remember, in an election year. And according to a New Yorker report, former British spy Christopher Steele, who put together this phony dossier filled with Russian lies and propaganda, he knew. He knew he was being paid by Hillary Clinton. He knew he was being paid by the DNC just months after he was hired by Fusion GPS. Now, this is significant because according to Congressman Adam Schiff's memo, which references the FISA application for the warrant, the FBI told the FISA judge that Steele was never told about the political motivations behind his work. Also remember, Steele hates Donald Trump also. So the FBI, again, flat out lied, and what we can only assume here is that it was an effort to make Steele more credible as they were omitting evidence to a FISA judge. Now, the FBI, Fusion GPS, remember, they never bothered to verify, corroborate the fake news dossier, which is mandated in FISA law. And by the way, it's part of the FBI's own protocols. And also the FISA application was denied the first time. But then Steele and the dossier was brought in to put the request over the top. Or to quote former Deputy Director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, remember he testified, without the dossier, there would never have even been a FISA warrant application. That's how important that dossier was to getting the approval of the FISA court. Now, this scandal is by far the most massive abuse of federal government power in the history of the country. And that's why a second special counsel needs to be appointed like yesterday and the month before to investigate what is severe FISA abuses. All right, also finally tonight, new details about how the FBI missed a critical warning sign from the deranged Stoneman Douglas High School shooter, Nicholas Cruz. Now, Congressional Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy, Bob Goodlatte, they issued a press release on key findings from an FBI briefing on the Parkland shooting. Now, it's previously been reported that in January of this year, a friend of the Cruz family called the FBI tip line to report Cruz's disturbing behavior. Well, tonight we have new information about how that FBI agent who answered the call handled it. And according to Gowdy and Goodlatte's press release, after that call warning about Cruz, the person who took the call spoke to a supervisor about what was said. Their conversation was never documented. And at that time, the FBI was able to connect Cruz to a different September call to the FBI tip line. And that's where Cruz made a threatening YouTube comment about wanting to be a professional school shooter. Now, despite that information, the FBI never proceeded ahead with an investigation. The FBI never told local authorities. They never told their field offices about this. And as we've been saying, this entire tragedy, all of it, could have been prevented, but there, of course, was a series of gigantic bureaucratic failures. Now, instead of trying to fix the system, correct those mistakes, we should secure the schools like we secured those Hollywood actors and actresses that were on the red carpet on Sunday. Well, the left, the media, predictably, they continue to blame guns, all in an attempt to limit your constitutional right to keep and to bear arms. All right, joining us now with more reaction, we have the host of Michelle Malkin Investigates, Michelle Malkin, former Deputy Assistant to the President, Fox News National Security Strategist, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. You know, we've talked a lot over the years, Michelle, and you wrote a book about this, about illegal immigration in this country. And you look at all of those numbers and statistics, the one that stands out the most to me is 3.5% of the population estimate, 13.5% of crimes. That's federal, not state and local. What part of this is California, the governor, and the Oakland mayor not getting?
Well, they get it, and they don't care. And it's that defiance, it's that recklessness, it is that sabotage of not only the sovereignty of California, but the sovereignty of this country that they have sacrificed for political and electoral gain. They've been doing it for decades. And for Jerry Brown to call Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump's accountability for their actions a stunt, there's no bigger radical open borders clown car than the one that is filled by these Democrat politicians. Jerry Brown, who declared the state a sanctuary state with his raft of 10 different bills that undermine enforcement of the law, that prevent employers and landlords and citizens and law enforcement from cooperating to make sure that that state is safe. Then you've had Xavier Becerra, who, I don't know if you remember this, Sean, but 15 years ago you interviewed him, and he proudly acknowledged his membership in one of the most radical open borders organizations in America, MECHA, whose slogan is, for the race, their race, everything. For people outside the race, nothing. And now he's in this position of power, as well as Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. Sanctuary cities are outlaw cities. Sanctuary mayors and sanctuary governors are outlaw governors. And we need to do more. We need to do more than just hold them civilly liable. They need to be criminally liable. They need to be kicked off from behind their bully pulpit and put behind bars.
And Dr. Gore, we're not talking about DACA, which, by the way, President Trump was willing to make a deal on DACA for the wall, chain migration, and the visa lottery. We're not talking about any of the, we're talking about criminal, illegal immigrants, those that not only broke our laws coming into the country illegally, but then committed other crimes. Now, if you aid and abet the system in getting away from authorities, the question is simple. Are you then responsible for whatever other crimes they commit in the future?
Well, of course you are. Whether you're a governor or whether you're a mayor, you take an oath of office. And if you are acting in contravention of the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution, which gives federal government the sole mandate to deal with immigration, then you are obstructing justice and you may be aiding and abetting felons. It's a very simple question. Does the governor of California, does the mayor of Oakland believe that because they are politicians, they are above the law? This is the Clinton complex, Sean. They think they're politicians, therefore the U.S. Constitution and federal law does not apply to them.
All right, let me ask. Yeah, well, it's got to apply to them, and it supersedes what they're doing in the state. Here's my exit question for both of you. Should the Department of Justice follow through and arrest the mayor of Oakland? Because I assume that in the minds of the left, that will turn her into a martyr.
The president is committed to rule of law, Sean. He is not prepared to see this happen again. Because when you provide sanctuary, let's look at who you're providing it to. You're providing it to criminals. The people we have to protect are Americans. And for the last 8 years, ICE, DHS, CBP have been shackled. They've been handcuffed, Sean. We are allowing them to do their job, which is to protect Americans.
I wish they were out with me. I actually was there when gang members were arrested. That same exit question, Michelle Malkin. Should those that aid and abet be arrested?
Yes, they absolutely should be. And I said this should just be the start I mean, we need to have Attorney General Sessions here in Colorado. We've got defiant outlaw politicians right now in Denver and law enforcement officers. The police chief who refuses to cooperate with ICE. There was a hit-and-run illegal alien driver that they refused to put an ICE detainer on. They need to be behind bars. We need to have more than lawsuits. We need to have prosecutions.
All right. Thank you both. Michelle Malkin, Dr. Gorka. When we come back.
It cannot be the policy of a great nation to up and reward those who unlawfully enter its country with legal status, Social Security, welfare, food stamps, work permits, and so forth. How can this be a sound policy? Meanwhile, those who engage in the process lawfully and patiently and wait their turn are discriminated against, it seems, at every turn.
All right, that was more of the Attorney General Jeff Sessions speaking today in California about our nation's immigration policy. Joining us now, the author of Stranger, the challenge of a Latino immigrant in the Trump era, Univision anchor, Jorge Ramos. Jorge, welcome back. Good to see you, sir.
Great to be here. Thank you.
All right, let's just for a second put aside DACA. Let's put aside chain migration. Let's put aside the visa lottery. I want to talk specifically about criminal aliens in the United States. Those that came here illegally, those that committed crimes, those that our immigration officers, ICE and others, are trying to deport. Do you support that?
Let me just say that the vast majority of immigrants and the vast majority of undocumented immigrants in this country, Sean, are not criminals. As a matter of fact, all the reports that I've seen and all the reports that you've read clearly conclude
okay, Jorge, we can't have a discussion if you start giving me your talking points.
That they're less likely to be criminals and to be behind bars. Those are the facts, Sean.
I went down to the border. I'll give you facts because I was on horseback, all-terrain vehicle. I was in helicopters. I was in boats, and I sat through a security briefing in Texas with Rick Perry. 642,000 crimes committed by illegal immigrants against Texans alone. Here's my question. Putting all those issues aside, those that commit crimes in America, including some violent crimes, even murder. Those criminal aliens, do you support having them removed from this country?
Absolutely. I have no problem with that. I'm not here to defend real criminals. But we cannot criminalize the whole immigrant population simply because of what a few have done.
Did I do that?
As if I would say
did I do that?
No. As if I would say that all the white population is responsible for what Stephen Paddock did in Las Vegas. That would be completely unfair. It's exactly the same thing here, Sean.
Let me give you one statistic. Illegal aliens accounted for 13% of all non-immigration related federal sentences in 2016. Now, that is a significantly higher percentage than the 3.5% estimated population of illegal. Wait a minute. You just got done saying all immigrants don't commit crimes. I will agree with you. But that is a much higher percentage than the rest of the population and illegal immigrants in the country.
I have different numbers. According to the Migration Policy Institute, less than 3% of undocumented immigrants commit felonies. And that, in this case, on many instances, has to do with fake IDs. This percentage is much lower than the rest of the U.S. population. So basically, my concern, Sean, is that you are, and President Trump and many of his followers, are criminalizing an immigrant population who's not responsible for the economic problems that we have and who's not responsible for the majority of the crimes in this country.
But you know something, Jorge? You never went. Are you saying that the people that I sat with, those were security people, law enforcement, border agents? I sat in a meeting, and I'll put it up on the screen.
Criminal aliens have been responsible for about 642,000 criminal offenses.
642,000 crimes
since 2008 in Texas.
In Texas alone.
Yes, sir. By over 200,000
yes, sir.
Individuals, their criminal history reflects that they were committed over 642,000 crimes.
That's the cost of not securing the border.
Are you literally saying to me that they're lying? Because they're not. And the problem is, you sound like, my last point, you sound like you don't care about the Americans that are victims of crime by people that don't respect our law.
Of course I do care. I live in this country. My children live in this country. And you have to put those numbers in perspective, because you're giving the impression to your audience, the false impression to your audience, Sean, that most immigrants and most undocumented immigrants are criminals. And, you know, they don't want to get in trouble with
Why
the law.
are you putting words in my mouth? Why would you do that?
They don't want to get in trouble with the law. They don't want to get in trouble with the police. They just want to prosper and help the rest of America.
Okay, I would argue, I'll concede your point, but you're wrong on another point. You're right. The vast majority, and having been to the border 13 times everywhere from the Rio Grande to San Diego, and having been in the drug warehouses, I would argue, yeah, they want to leave the poverty that many of them face in Mexico and have more opportunity here in America. I'm saying doing it legally. But there are you're not answering my question, 642,000 crimes committed against Texans alone in a 7-year period. That's not your family, Jorge. Where's your sympathy for those victims of crime? And why shouldn't we take those that are committing crimes and get rid of them tomorrow?
Again, I agree with you completely. I'm not here to defend real criminals. I'm not here to defend real criminals. But then, if you just put those numbers, and
if you come in illegally, you're a criminal. You broke the law.
In context, and you don't tell the people, you don't tell your audience the truth, the fact that immigrants are less likely to be criminals.
That's not factually accurate.
In the United States?
Address Kate Steinle's family, because there are a lot of families that have sadly been victimized by those people here illegally that commit more crimes. What do you say to her family?
I cannot even imagine, what it would feel, what they are going through. I cannot even think about that. And
so let's control the border and vet people.
There is no excuse for that. And
no excuse.
Exactly. But again, if you say that all undocumented immigrants are responsible for these crimes, it is simply not.
Nobody said that.
It is simply not right, because you're inferring that immigrants.
No, I'm not inferring. I speak very directly.
And you're presenting immigrants.
No,
I
am saying it's a higher percentage.
Exactly as President Trump did, and that is not the case.
I am saying to the mayor of Oakland, stop aiding and abetting criminals that committed more crimes.
If you're talking about sanctuary cities, I think sanctuary cities are saying no, and California is saying no.
I am saying we have federal law that ought to be obeyed. Absolutely.
We have since the 1950s.
So you don't believe in the rule of law, then?
I do believe in the rule of law, but somebody has to help immigrants, one. And second, this policy established by President Trump and by his administration is already helping a lot of bad hombres.
President Trump, who supported DACA. President Trump, who you don't like,
President
supported
Trump
DACA,
who killed DACA.
And fixing DACA.
Let's not forget that the president who killed DACA is called Donald Trump.
Excuse me, he's the one that was willing to make it law.
Donald Trump.
Let me ask you a question. Will you go down with me and do a town hall in Texas, and we'll invite the 642,000 families, those that would like to come, that were victims of crime, and listen to their stories?
Let me take you on this. Yes, I'll do a show with you, and then we'll decide who's going to be attending that show. But I think this conversation.
I told you who's attending. Oh, so that means
this conversation is interesting, and I appreciate that you give me the opportunity just to have it.
I got to run.
But we have to continue. I understand. All right. Thank you, Sean.
When we come back, disgraced FBI Director James Comey getting ready for his big audition to be in MSNBC's brand new tell-all book. You might remember this. Comey will get a multi-million-dollar book deal, a movie, a miniseries, primetime special, Diane Sawyer, well, maybe even George Stephanopoulos. Why not go totally in for the Clintons? He wants to be booked on Rachel Maddow, Steve Colbert, Bill Maher, the biggest Trump haters in the country. I was more right than I knew. The man who had put the fix in, rigged the Clinton investigation, got fired from the FBI, and leaked potentially classified information in order to trigger a special counsel investigation. Yeah, he's now getting ready for the biggest audition of his life, and that, of course, he will become the next darling of the mainstream media. Now, we'll discuss this and more in tonight's mini monologue. All right, it's the moment we all knew would happen. James Comey has finished writing his book and is now ready to cash in on his anti-Trump infamy. Now, naturally, the first stop on his upcoming mainstream media world tour will include a morning interview with former Clinton hack turned ABC so-called journalist George Stephanopoulos. Now, of course, he's the Clintons' BFF, and another with professional late-night Trump hater Stephen Colbert. Oh, easy interviews. Let's just say the mainstream media can barely contain their excitement. Watch this.
James Comey, for the first time since being fired by President Trump, is ready to talk. Nothing's off limits. Stephanopoulos, Comey.
I'm also really excited because I just found out, is this true? What's the date? April 17th. My guest sitting in that chair will be former FBI Director James Comey. Woo! Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. I said, woo!
All right, given that unrestrained glee over an upcoming interview, can you really expect Stephanopoulos, Steve Colbert, and others to ask the tough, the important questions that you, the American people, deserve answers to? For example, is Colbert and Stephanopoulos, are they going to ask Comey why he never investigated Hillary Clinton's lies, you know, the exoneration before investigation? Will the so-called journalists over at ABC ask Comey how a seasoned, independent FBI director was actually bullied into calling the Clinton criminal investigation a, quote, matter during the 2016 election? Is Colbert going to press Comey on why he looked the other way when Bill Clinton, Loretta Lynch, remember they held that secret meeting on the tarmac just days before the FBI decided not to recommend charges against Hillary Clinton when we know she committed felonies? Is Comey going to be forced to discuss why a draft statement that he was writing months before interviewing Hillary Clinton, exonerating her on charges in the email investigation, why was it written so many months in advance before the interview? Is Comey going to explain the lies, the outright omissions to a FISA court? And then, of course, in January, Comey told President-elect Trump about his unverified, salacious dossier. But months earlier, he allowed the unverified, salacious dossier to be presented to the FISA court. And why did Comey withhold the fact that Clinton paid for the dirty dossier? Will the mainstream media actually address Comey's potentially unlawful leaking of classified information after he was fired? Now, I doubt those important issues will be pressed or even seriously addressed. Instead, I think Comey, he just might find that the career he's always been dreaming of in front of a camera with, of course, some of his anti-Trump friends, and he wants to get hired to bash Trump every single day, like the rest of the media. Now, with that said, James Comey, you want to have a sit-down interview? You want to come and discuss your book? You want to discuss the questions that need to be answered, that millions of Americans want to hear answers to? Come on the program. I'm offering you the full hour. I'll offer you 3 hours, unprecedented, on my radio show. You just have to be willing to address every issue. Here with reaction, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, former congressman and Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. There's so many issues here, Greg, if I can start with, he's the guy that put the fix in. We now know this is not in dispute anymore. He was exonerating before investigating. He told Trump in January 2017 it's an unverified and salacious dossier, but he allowed the same dossier to be used as the bulk of information for the FISA warrant against Carter Page and the Trump campaign. Is he in legal jeopardy?
Oh, he's in a lot of legal jeopardy. This is a guy who failed to uphold the law and lacked integrity. Those are the direct words of the Department of Justice when they recommended that he be fired. Let me just read one line from Rod Rosenstein, who wrote the memo on the findings. And remember, he was the protege of James Comey. He told Congress that. He said, I cannot defend the director's handling of the conclusion of the investigation of Secretary Clinton's emails. I do not understand his refusal to accept the nearly universal judgment that he was mistaken. And then Rosenstein went on to quote from 6 different attorney generals and deputy attorney generals who said that Comey had usurped the power of the attorney general, abused his own powers, and broken a myriad of rules and regulations. This is a guy who's in a lot of trouble.
The FISA law, correct me, former congressman, recovering congressman, Jason Chaffetz, doesn't the FISA law require that the FBI verify, corroborate? Don't their own protocols call for that before they go before a FISA judge?
They're internal rules, the law, this requires it. It's crystal clear. And it's a one-way court. It's a secretive court. There's only one presentation. And so the necessity to be fair, to be complete, to lay out all the facts, they went to a greater length to disguise it than they would have by just saying Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee paid for it.
All right, so if you're James Comey's lawyer, Greg Jarrett, you happen to be a great lawyer. You do more research than anybody I know. You are writing a book on this case. You're up to your eyeballs in this every day. If you're James Comey's lawyer and he's writing this book, how closely are you going through this? And is there a great risk in these interviews for him that he's not thinking about right now as he dreams of fame and fortune and a position on MSNBC Conspiracy Theory TV?
Comey will try to massage the facts and try to rationalize his behavior, but if I'm his lawyer, I got to be really worried because he's looking at potentially theft of government documents, perjury, obstruction of justice, abuse of power, and probably 3 or 4 other different felony statutes.
And why would any lawyer let him do? Why would a good lawyer allow this?
Well, because the lawyer wants to be paid, and he better hope that Comey makes a load of money off the book because his legal fees are going to be steep.
You know, there's one thing I've noticed, Congressman, is that I watch his Twitter occasionally. He's so arrogant. He thinks he's so holier than thou. And I'm like, you rigged an investigation. You allowed people to lie to a FISA judge. You never told the judges that it was Hillary Clinton bought and paid for. You told Trump one thing 3 months after you used it to get the FISA warrant. You know, I'm not a lawyer, but I would say he's in serious jeopardy, and I don't care what Stephanopoulos or Colbert ask him.
Yeah, he's going to get some tough questions from Stephen Colbert. I'm sure they'll be hard-hitting questions. He does have a degree of arrogance. He would typically, when he came and testified before Congress, he liked to do it without notes. He would try to hit that 5-minute timeline just as he could. But, you know, there's so many things that he didn't do. And even when we asked him questions there under oath, he was not.
All right, a follow-up tonight on an explosive Daily Caller report. At least 7 House Democrats, including liberals like Maxine Waters, Keith Ellison, in fact, have direct ties to the racist, anti-Semitic character that is known as Louis Farrakhan. Now, this has caught the attention of the Republican Jewish Coalition, who are now calling on these lawmakers to resign, and no wonder why. Watch this.
The satanic Jews that control everything and mostly everybody. If they are your enemy, then you must be somebody. It is now becoming apparent that there were many Israelis and Zionist Jews in key roles in the 9/11 attacks. White folks are going down. And Satan is going down. And Farrakhan, by God's grace, has pulled the cover off of that satanic Jew.
And, of course, we have this picture, of course, of Louis Farrakhan and Barack Obama that was hidden from view for his entire presidency and leading up to the election in 2008. Here with reaction, Salem Radio, nationally syndicated talk show host Larry Elder, civil rights attorney Daryl Parks. Daryl, you're not going to dispute that Louis Farrakhan is a racist and anti-Semite, are you?
Yes, I am. I think Sean, he says a lot of different. Yes, I am. On that same video that you just showed, it also talks about he distinguishes between who he believes is a good Jew or a bad Jew. Now, I'm not here to speak on behalf of Louis Farrakhan.
No, he said Jews control. If you listen, keep going, because you just keep digging.
Well, without question, let me say this here. I can't speak for Louis Farrakhan. He speaks for himself, right? However, he has some opinions that not all of us will agree with. And let me say this here.
Is he a racist or anti-Semite? That's the question. The answer is yes, and we can play hours of tape.
No, I think he has some views that are very controversial, but I don't think he's anti-Semitic.
Racist?
I do not.
Anti-Semitic? Larry Elder, how do you respond?
I think he has some issues.
has some issues.
I don't know what to say. For me to say that Louis Farrakhan is not anti-Semitic would be as if I defended David Duke and said he wasn't racist. Of course he's anti-Semitic. There's a laundry list of things that he said. But Sean, the truth is that there's a great deal of anti-Semitism within the black community. The Anti-Defamation League commissioned a study, and it found out that around 12% of Americans could be called anti-Semitic. But about 36% of blacks could be called anti-Semitic. Rasmussen did a poll of blacks, whites, and Hispanics to ask, of those three groups, which is the most racist? Whites and
Why
blacks
would a guy, though,
racist.
Larry, I've known Darryl Parks. Why would a guy like Darryl support him and defend him?
Well, but Sean, let me say this. I'm also a strong supporter of the Jewish people, Sean. I'm a strong supporter of AIPAC. So I see that both sides have some positive things to them.
That doesn't justify your support of a hateful, rabid, anti-Semitic racist like Farrakhan. Larry.
And you know what, Sean, what's so baffling about this is Jews have been so supportive of blacks over the years. Booker T. Washington worked very closely with a Jewish man named Julius Rosenwald, who helped to fund and support over 5,000 schools for blacks in the South. A Jewish man helped to found the NAACP. Of the Jews that helped blacks register in 1964 in Mississippi in an incident that was memorialized in that movie, Mississippi Burning, 75% of the non-blacks who came down there were Jews. Two of the three young men who were killed in Mississippi Burning were Jews. And if you look at
last
polls,
word, Darryl. We're almost out of time.
You ask negative
Without
questions.
question, I think you have to look and see what has Farrakhan did as it relates to deeds against Jewish people. There are no deeds that he's done against Jewish people.
Unbelievable.
So I don't think it's
Darryl, I don't know what to say. When we come back, a video that has been seen by over 14 million people. That's next. For the Hannity Hotline.
You don't know what you're talking about 99% of the time. I mean, you're clueless.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that I did watch the movie Let There Be Light, and I have to tell you, out of all them Oscar awards, that should have been number one. Not only was that an amazing movie, but it was a movie, and it was a true movie.
I just never know what to expect, ever. Want to call me? Good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter. 877-225-8587. Before we go tonight, well, my faith-based film that I produced, Let There Be Light, it's now available on DVD. It's at Walmart, Amazon.com, Hannity.com. All right, we're always fair and balanced. Let not your heart be troubled. News continues. All right, what wiseacre comment are you going to make tonight?
Okay, let me just go through the list of everything you've done. You've been a construction worker, a star radio host, one of the biggest ever in American history, one of the top television hosts in American history. You won a Grammy a few years ago. You were up for an Oscar 10 years ago.
Grammy? Oscar? What are you talking about?
Oh, they've had that was in my packet. Okay. And now you actually a movie producer. I mean, Hannity, no one can't compete.
Right,
I'm going.
did you ever watch my movie? Did you ever?
Yes,
I will go to Walmart for you.
It was fantastic, and
I was
proud of you. And it's about time we see films that we can watch with our family that have great values, are well acted and well directed. And kudos on you. I can't even joke with you about it.